What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets. I'm going to break down some important things that came out involving Tesla, what you should be watching for as time goes on. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, there was news that came out that Elon Musk has been proposed a pay package. The pay package would basically help Elon Musk acquire a lot of Tesla shares, which could help his overall net worth increase astronomically if we end up seeing Tesla do very, very well and achieve a lot of milestones. I did go over this for the last couple of days, so I'm not going to go over the full details about that. I believe that news is still helping Tesla continue to uptrend, at least for now. Now, that is some good news. And then on top of this, Elon Musk also mentioned that he believes that 80% of Tesla's future is going to likely come from Optimus. And he thinks the Optimus humanoid robots can be massive for them as they want to once again scale production in the upcoming years and eventually start to use them for all kinds of different tasks, right? Initially, they're going to be used in Tesla itself, then eventually it's going to be used for commercial use, and eventually it's going to continue to expand. So that's what Elon Musk has been saying. He also teased the Optimus version 3 on X, calling it Sublime. I think that's awesome news so far to see his passion, at least for this. So that's something very important. Musk also said that even the most optimistic estimates that I've seen for Optimus, the Optimist, I think it basically undercounts the magnitude of what the robot will be able to do, according to Elon Musk. So he's very, very, excited about this. He's saying Optimus is going to be massive for Tesla, and he thinks this is going to be 80% of Tesla's future, possibly. So that's a very, very important thing that Musk is saying. So with the pay package news and then all this talk about the Optimus robot, this has been quite bullish for Tesla. Also, the whole market is trying to bounce after the decline we saw on Friday. But there are some headlines coming out that are a bit more negative for Tesla, such as the fact that I'm seeing lots of headlines saying that the market share of Tesla in the US is dropping to the lowest since 2017. Now, market share itself is not the most accurate way to kind of look at things because you have to remember the overall EV market is continuing to expand and there's more competition. But what we can do is kind of look at the statistics. So look at the US EV sales and where they came from. Around 2022, Tesla was doing 129 to 130,000 in sales during 2022. And if you kind of like go more this way, you'll see that things did begin to shift as time went on. So in 2023, we started to do 160,000 sales per quarter, 175,000, 150,000. So you could see we started hitting around 160,000 plus in 2023 per quarter. And then when we go to 2024, you guys could see that right here. It did go down a bit to 140,000 and started to kind of like mix around 160,000. And since then, we've been seeing it kind of like slow a little bit. So going to like this year, we got 128,000 sales in the US for Q1. And then for Q2, we did 143,000. So there is a slight decline in the US EV sales, at least for Tesla. However, despite there being a slight decline, I just want to make it very clear that things could be a little bit better in Q3 due to the EV tax incentives. So what's happening is we're going to see the tax credits ending on September 30th. And that could incentivize a lot more sales. So hopefully we see the US numbers do better. But that's what's making headlines, at least for now, for Tesla. Now, a couple more things. Today is Monday, September 8th. We have some bill auctions at 11:30 a.m. And that's pretty much it for today. Then we also have, once again, some minor earnings coming out. It's nothing way too serious. We do have Oracle tomorrow. And more news about the markets, at least so far. We're waiting on a lot of inflationary data for the week, so the market may be a little bit indecisive. And on top of this, President Trump and his team are still fighting for their tariffs. Our Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is saying that he's confident that we will win at the Supreme Court. So that's what he's saying. But in case it doesn't go in their favor, he did mention they have to give back half the tariffs. So we'll see what happens with how things are going and what happens with the Supreme Court. So, anyways, that's enough about the news. That's all I'm seeing on the news, at least so far. Tesla's in a mixed bag right here. We are at resistance at 355. If we don't hold 355, there's going to be a risk of us returning to 350. So watch and see if we can get back above 355 to fill that gap, and then we'll bounce after that if that ends up happening. But if we do hold above 355, we could see Tesla kind of like shuffle and push a bit higher for 358, then eventually try to push out for like the 360s. That's also very possible. I think that Tesla's going to shuffle a bit like I talked about yesterday. So I would not be surprised if we kind of like turn a little bit, bounce, shuffle like this before we continue to push higher. There is a bit of an upwards thrust to this overall trend, and then this also looks like a nice accumulation, which could be favoring 355 to 358. But I would not be surprised if we shuffle a little bit and come back down to fill this gap before we try to bounce. So it could come down to fill this gap around 350, bounce back up to like 355, and just consolidate before it starts breaking out for 358 to 360. So we'll see what happens after that. But there is a very, very good chance we see a little bit of consolidation like this on Tesla first before we try to go higher. As long as we don't lose 350 to retest 347, we're still favoring consolidation, then some upside for 358 very, very soon. On other tickers such as SPY, now if we hypothetically end up losing 647, we could be dipping to fill this gap around 646. That's the overnight gap. But as long as we're above 648, I want to see us hold above 648. We're going to be looking for 650 to 652, and we're going to see if we can try to push towards this high. Now, I'd be very careful if we do get close to the all-time high, because even if we do push towards 650, we could still see another rejection because of this resistance. We got rejected many times near 650. So as of right now, we look like we want to pump to like 650. The market may pump a bit higher, but be careful in case we turn back down towards like 648. That's going to be very, very important. There is tough resistance at 650 on SPY. For the QQQ, it's the same thing. So we're going to try to go higher. I am anticipating basically 580, and we'll see if we break past it or not. We could be pushing a bit like this, but be careful at 580 flat because we could still turn back down. We did reject many times near 580, so I do expect us to push a little higher, closer to it before we potentially reject. Russell 2000 is favoring 240. If that breaks, we could be going to 242.5. Look for intent for 240, and we'll see if it breaks to go to 242. ES is holding up well. As long as we don't end up losing 64.90, we're going to be favoring a push for 65.30, and then we're going to see if we kind of like reject off that or not. But I do anticipate some upside for 65.25 to 65.40. NQ is doing a great job at holding up. We have 23,650 as our support. We're still favoring an attempt to push to fill this imbalance, taking us back up to 23,800. Then we're going to see if we reject or not off that, but there is still some upside potential. Bitcoin's also favoring upside for 112,500, so it could be pushing a bit higher, and we'll see if we reject. On Nvda, I do expect us to push for 169 to 170.5, so look for some upside, and we'll see if we turn down or not. Apple's also favoring upside for like 240, and we'll see if we reject back down to 237. So far, 240 is likely going to be where we end up going, and I favor some upside at least for now. For Supermicro, we're going to be favoring 41. If that breaks, we're going back up to like 41.5. Look for a little bit of upside, and we'll see if we reject later on, but look for a temporary push for 41.5 plus. For AMD, for those who are interested, we're trying to base at 150. We need to hold 150 for this to try to bounce. If 150 holds, I think we might be retesting this. We could try to bounce for 155. But if 150 does not hold, we could be dipping to 145. So I'd still be very careful with AMD. Still kind of weak right now, but let's see if 150 holds. Might test that. Coinbase should test 303, and we'll see if it rejects. Amazon might come back down to like 232, then try to bounce back up to 235. Meta's favoring 760, and Google's also going to be favoring essentially 240. Last but not least, Microsoft is going to be favoring 502, and we'll see how it ends up reacting. The VIX is also kind of flat here. We're going to see if we get a rejection or not. It might consolidate, and then it could end up turning back down. But we're going to have to see how well this could attempt to hold up. So with that being said, I favor upside for SPY and the QQQ upon open. And as far as Tesla goes, this could also try to push a little bit higher. But there might be like a liquidity sweep that could be coming to fill this gap. So sometimes what Tesla does is it kind of like dips in the mornings. So it kind of like consolidates, dips back down. There might be a little bit of consolidation like this, but then later on, we could be pushing to 358 plus and eventually the 360s. So look for a move like this, some consolidation, and maybe even a liquidity sweep to fill this gap before we potentially push higher. But overall, there is upside potential as long as we're above 350. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Have an awesome rest of your guys' days, and peace out.